All right, all right, all right. Who doesn't want to do that when there's a microphone in the face? So super pumped to be here with you guys as usual. And I love the topic for today, or like kind of what we're going to be digging into. Not really scripted here, but our whole concept around our podcast is that we want to speak with you guys as often as we can. We want to listen, we want to give feedback, we want to help you guys have the highest probability of success at F45 or whatever fitness journey you're on. So we talk about things that are relevant to F45, but we don't talk about F45 a lot. And I think that's a huge opportunity for us. So today we're going to actually jump into F45 and do a little advertising, a little unofficial advertising. Don't worry, HQ. But talk a little bit about, well, why did we get into this business? Why do we love it? What's going on with the programming right now? Why is it still continue to be such an amazing thing that members are sticking around? Like, one of our members is off on hold right now, but she's done over 1,000 classes, right? And I think there's a bunch of people on her heels catching up to her right now. So it's crazy. And what is it? What is the phenomenon that continues to make this thing interesting? Why is David Beckham now interested in it, right? Why is Mark Wahlberg interested in it? I mean, these aren't just anybody, right? These are big names, and there's a reason why we love this thing so much. Beyond that, and why it's amazing, we want to talk a little bit about how to get the most of it, right? How do you actually maximize? If you want to build muscle, can you do it at 45? Newsflash, yes, right? Spoiler alert, rather. You want to burn body fat? Can you do that at 45? Yeah, we know that's a yes, right? You want to have fun? Absolutely. You want to do it for years and years and years, pain-free? Absolutely. So we'll talk a little bit about that, how to modify the workout for you, how to get the most of your coaches. People love our coaches, especially at Hamilton downtown, but not a lot of them are maximizing what they can get out of that by actually bringing a plan and concerns to the coaches and saying, hey, not just in the moment when you see something, here's what I'm focused on, and I actually want you to help me get there. Remember, these guys are personal trainers. They're really good at what they do, and they're eager to give you guys any challenges and help you out. So there's a way to maximize that.
Yeah, I always tell people that, whether you're new or a seasoned F45er, if you have a focus that day, that week, it's even like when you're avoiding something, if you're like, my shoulder's really bothering me today, I'm going to need some modifications. You can do the same thing with something that you're working on. I really want to buff my shoulders up. Like, how can you help me with that? Yeah. So sometimes, or if you're avoiding certain exercises, or feel like, I personally, I'm not working out a lot of chest right now, so I end up changing it to a lot of shoulder exercises. So you can do that.
So you have your workout.
Yeah, it doesn't mean you need to change every single exercise to get what you want out of it. Tell your coaches, because they're going to have a lot of fun saying, oh yeah, this is a goal of yours, then I'm definitely going to help you.
Yeah. So I guess for folks who are interested in that 45, might be listening to this and don't really have context on what it is, let me sort of walk you through who we are and what we do. So F45 stands for functional 45. And what that means is that we have a 45-minute workout. There you go. That doesn't come to everyone, obviously. Is that 45? Is this like an auto repair shop, a drag racing building company? No, it is a 45-minute workout. And functional pertains to the types of movements we do, which people describe functional movements in so many different ways, and I totally understand why. But essentially what we're saying is that we're trying to move the body in so many different ways, in a way to prioritize strength and mobility, in a way that you may use your body in everyday life, right? So we do a lot of what we call unilateral training, which means one side at a time, using kettlebells and dumbbells, because as we navigate the world, we typically find ourselves in a situation. Sure, we may be in a situation where we're, doing something really to a leg press machine. More often than not, we are in sort of that degree of freedom where there's so many variables acting on us. And that's sort of what we try and replicate, while also adhering to the principles of strength conditioning and muscle hypertrophy, building the body up, working the body's energy systems, and really providing a complete platform for transformation. So we have these 45-minute workouts. We are a franchise, and the beautiful thing about being a franchise is, number one, we have an incredible international community, which means that your friends in Australia are doing the same workout, struggling well with you that day, which is always cool. If you want to cheat, you can look ahead and see what they're doing. Number two, maybe more importantly, we have an incredible athletics team at headquarters that's providing with innovative new technologies, whether it's advancements to our Reinhardt heart rate monitor system, or actually the periodization, which is a big personal training word. That means thoughtfully programming your workouts to make sure that you're getting novelty, but purposeful novelty, so that there's actually balance in mind. For instance, if we're doing lower body one Thursday, we're doing upper body the following Thursday. If we did squats one day, we're going to carefully manage when we're doing squats or how much based on where that phase is going. And so when you work with a personal trainer who's worth his weight or her weight in salt or gold, With the weight in gold, that's the same. Wow.
Salt.
Worth your salt. There's a salt one, and it's not coming here. But
Salt of
anyway,
the earth.
yeah, something like that. I'm getting laughed at right now. That's part of who I am. Just a little bit of self-deprecation to keep people laughing. But anyways, a trainer who's worthwhile will have a thoughtful plan of progressing you through different phases, and that's actually what F45 is doing. And so we always like to say, from a value standpoint, beyond the fun, beyond the community, beyond the sexiness of the brand and the endorsements like David Beckham, you're getting personal training at a fraction of the cost, at 1/6 of the cost, whereas it might cost you $85, $90, $100 with inflation to get a one-on-one session today in personal training.
And
You're able to get almost 2 weeks at F45, unlimited training, coming in every day, getting balance, getting your cardio workouts and your strength training workouts for what it would cost for 1 hour personal training, which is an amazing value proposition. And because of all the ingredients and how they come together, the fun that keeps you coming to the gym, trainer's oversight, the balance, people stick to it, and the affordability, people stick to it for years and years and years. And that's when transformation is allowed to happen.
yeah, I mean, I don't think, even as somebody who's a personal trainer and is certified to do these things or has a background in things like Pilates, and I could throw together crazy workouts and I could do it every single day by myself. But do I do that? No, I don't. Look at this gym that we have behind us. If you're
Hey,
looking at
we use the
video.
gym, we use the gym.
No, I do, I'm not saying we
Let's
don't
be
use
honest
the
with you.
gym, but
We still go to F45 4 times a week.
exactly,
It's
and
a staple.
a large majority of that reason is because of all those things, because of the community, the people, the motivation, the trainers, and because I just don't want to think about my workout sometimes. Like, even if you know everything, even if you think you know everything, or
We
if
definitely
you,
don't know.
or yeah, or if you have a very specific way that you like to train, even if it was all of those things, you're still going to do something totally new, something you didn't expect, or work a muscle group you weren't thinking, or push yourself to the next degree. If you were in that group environment, and I just, and some days, yeah, I really just want to do my own thing. I have very specific things that I'm working on. But like for the majority of it, I would prefer being at F45.
I have a tough time not going to this week.
Yeah.
And not just doing it because I'm the owner, because it's actually me, and I know push myself hard in that competitive environment. right?
Especially when you know some of the good programs that are coming up too. Like the longer time you're a member, the more you get used to some of these
We're gonna
programs.
get 45 different workout days. So when she talks about programs, here's a crazy thing. Like, one of the promises we have is that we'll never do the same workout twice. So you made that great analogy. I was actually explaining this to someone the other day. I'm like, look, I could be the best personal trainer in the world. How long do you think I can come up with a novelty for you? You know what I mean? Like, whether I'm designing a brand new boot camp for people in the field, or whether I'm like periodizing programs for you, or 50 different clients, do you think that I can go home every night and bring the same level? That's where that franchise scale comes in. And I actually just tested you. Well, before we get into what we're doing this week, when she says, for phases, we have what we call like paradigms or frameworks or workout types, athletic, wellness, etc. And these are different ways of organizing the room and playing with timing to elicit a certain purposeful response, be it muscular endurance, muscular power, strength, energy system development, agility. We designed these, so we have about 45 different programs, but the way we organize the exercises and the combination of them will never be the same twice. That's the innovation part. And then, our pattern is we do right now, and this has changed over the years because F45 takes feedback, is we do a hybrid day on Monday. So hybrid is cardio and strength combined into one. We do a strength day Tuesday. We do a pure cardio day Wednesday. We do either an upper or a lower body alternating week over week on Thursday, strength day. Friday we do a hybrid, right? Saturday we do a super circuit hybrid. So that's Hollywood. We have a live DJ. Yeah, so it's 60 minutes. Well, we're doing special ops right now, but 60 minutes. And it's just the community building workout. And then Sunday we do strength again, full body. And it's a ton of variety and a ton of opportunity. That's essentially how it's organized. What are the workouts right now?
Right now, the next 4 weeks at least will be Redline on Mondays. Which do you want to get into every detail of those workouts? Or you want to just list out what we're doing this week?
Sure, I'm just testing it. I just want you to rip off Bob, because I just told her there's no way she memorized all the workouts.
Yeah, it's like,
She just proved me wrong.
of course I know. Yeah, Redline, the 9s on Tuesday, which is a new resistance workout. And then we have good old Athletica on Wednesday.
Athletica,
Athletica, which was today, which I did almost die. And I did donate blood yesterday, so it's probably not a great idea going in, but
why'd you donate blood?
We'll get into that afterwards. It's a bit of a long story. And then we've got, MCATs on Thursday, which is a fan favorite too. It's been around for a long time. Also Miami Nights on Friday, also a big fan favorite. Really good hybrid workout. And then we have special ops on Saturday and Wingman.
Another OG. Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. I did red lines. Red lines of cardio, pretty much cardio. I'd say it leans towards cardio more than a hybrid.
Yeah, like I'm not sure how often like the hybrid nature is. I mean, there was a couple of explosive movements like with a clean and kettlebell that was a little bit slower.
Originally, what we used to do, guys, is we used to do cardio Monday, Wednesdays, and a hybrid every so often on Fridays.
Every so often. Now it's
that into perfect more strength.
Yeah, it seems like Fridays are going to continue to be a hybrid. I do also love the change of the Thursday focus day. So Thursday being upper or lower every other week. I think it's been really, really good. I personally.
Yeah, I mean, like at the end of the day, especially when you're doing this for a while, you need that volume, you need that stimulus that's like, I'm crushing the legs or I'm crushing the upper body, and then feeding yourself protein, getting your rest. And you're going to see some material, some big strength gains and some muscle building happening with those workouts. Like the volume and the time and attention in those is pristine, and this is such a great switch up. And interestingly enough, when I was doing redline, the reason I brought it up is the other day is I'm one of those people that there's people that their heart rate just jumps up, they do one jumping jack, and there's people that they have to like climb a mountain to get their heart rate up. And you know, that's genetics, that's conditioning, that's muscle type. So I have a lot of slow twitch muscles, I know through 23andMe, assuming it's right, but it seems to be that that's the case. And, you know, probably from a cardiac output standpoint, I probably pump a lot of blood every pump. For all those reasons, I don't have to pump my heart. It's hard to get to the same rate of perceived exertion and performance.
I'm the opposite.
And so we have our line heart system, which is a heart rate monitoring system that kind of gamifies pushing yourself to your relative best every workout. And it's asking you to get to 45 points. Well, it's nearly impossible for me to do. So what I've been doing is actually experimenting with how does Justin get to 45? And the key is, and I think this is true for anyone, is you got to have an amazing warm-up, and you got to actually planfully, where am I going to start in the room? So I started at double under skipping, knowing that would jump my heart up, and I got to get my heart rate up in those first few exercises, provided I had a safe warm-up. And if I can carry that heart rate through the workout, I'm more likely to hit it, versus at the end, my last effort at the end, trying to get my heart rate up. So I guess that's my advice to you slow heart rate people, is get after it early and carry it through to hit your highest scores.
Yeah, your warm-up is also very important too. So don't skimp out on that if you're that. I'm the opposite, where not that I, take it easy in my warm-ups, but I sometimes want to go like really high energy for those warm-ups and kind of come out of the gate hot. And someone like me, it just like, it slows me down at in that beginning part, because I do need a little bit more time for my heart rate to come down for me to feel like I can fully perform. As much as I could probably pedal to the metal the whole time, I would have awful form for sure, because I can tell that I'm moving slower and that my feet might not make it over, whatever.
Yeah, that's one of the knocks we get a lot. So we should actually lean into that a little bit, which is this idea your warm-ups aren't long enough, right? And I love that stretching you used to do. And so, I'll talk about the first one first. I agree. I mean, I'd love to warm up longer, right? And so if you're in that camp and let's say you have some patellar tendonitis, like sore knees or whatever, come early. Come 5 minutes early, take control of your journey. And our trainers are never, at least in Hamilton downtown, I'm sure elsewhere, they're never going to say you can't do some jacks on the side or do some specific warm-ups, right? Own that part of your journey.
And rollers and stuff, like people are utilizing them, and I love to see it. And they usually ask us for different ones too, if they have different warm-ups, or if you're seeing physio, they've already give you some warm-ups, and you should be incorporating those beforehand.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like, our goal is to serve as many people as we can in a 24-hour period, right? And with a 45-minute workout, our time to do that is limited. If you think, how many people can you fit into a class before work, right? Well, you want to have as many classes as possible, which then, you have to run the F45 program, right? Would I love to offer a 10-minute warm-up? Absolutely. Can you come in and do that yourself if that's important to you, and you should, and a lot of people should? Absolutely, right? So, make sure you're giving those suggestions to your F45 to permit that thing if they can do it operationally, and certainly at ours. No problem at all. Come 5 minutes early and get after that. Our coaches would love to see it. And it actually gives you an opportunity to interact with our coaches and ask them questions about your journey. Stretching afterwards, same thing, right? Same operational confines, but there are some studies, and this is a controversial one, that static stretching after workout may not be the best thing. It might actually increase your balance because it's accentuating those tears.
Yeah.
I suggest doing it later on in the evening as a way to get ready for bed, to kind of get yourself into that sit off the sympathetic nervous system to that parasympathetic kind of relaxed space, you will get like, the benefits, your body will sort of, the hormones and everything circulating will sort of slow everything down. You start giving it the signals of stretching those muscles. I talked about baroreceptors in our previous podcast. So these kind of pressure receptors in our body that sort of sense some of these tensions, they'll actually get you in that parasympathetic zone.
Yeah, by then, you might start to be tensing up from your workout, which will give you a bit more feedback of how far you can push or stretch, because I think at least my thinking answer is that right after the workout, you're still pretty loose and limber, and then you go into a deep stretch. You will feel that if you've ever done a really deep hamstring stretch, you actually feel your hamstring hurt or they're tighter the next day, because you're actually stretching and maybe creating little micro tears in that way too. So I think you can go too far post workout. So depending on how long you're holding a stretch like that, if it's a static stretch, I wouldn't hold it for very long. I'd move around, but I don't think there's a lot of benefit in stretching a bunch right after.
Yeah, totally. And science is still going on, but it's now there is some science to say that stretching during the workout can actually help you with hypertrophy as well, because it gets into that muscle damage, aspect of things. Now, I'm not talking about hyper mobility. I'm talking about like a good modest stretch between sets. Anyhow, I digress. I talked about cardio. How do you get the most of your strength workouts at F45? People have a lot of goals, right? Some people want to, that's where we hear a lot. Some people want to get big. Some people want to add like real mass. Some people just don't even care what they look like. They just want more muscle because they know it's healthy tissue. What advice do you have for those people that are saying, hey, like, can I do this at F45? Or is it just a mirage, you guys doing strength training?
Well, I think that there should always be some sort of a little bit of purpose behind your workouts, because it is going to differentiate how your intensity and how you go about your workouts. You're not just kind of going through the motions, because I do see a lot of that still. People are kind of just like
picking up light weights,
picking up stuff and just doing a motion, and they don't look like they're really making that connection to their body yet. And maybe that's again just coming with time, and they're very new.
Newsflash: the goal of what we do in the gym is not just to move the weight around. Who cares? Like if I can move a dumbbell up in the air, the goal is to contract the muscle in order to stimulate a change.
Yeah. So recently I had a member ask, he's actually a dancer, or was a dancer, and doesn't want to put on too much muscle. He wants to stay.
Doesn't want to be a bodybuilder overnight.
Yeah, he's afraid of becoming a bodybuilder. We always joke about that. Very hard to do, and it takes long to put on muscle. So I think
we appreciate what you say.
Yeah, absolutely. It takes a lot longer to put on muscle, rather than, when you look at a body scan, sometimes you might see somebody gains like 5, 8, 10 pounds of muscle in a short period of time. A lot of the times too, that's just like maybe your first scan, you were incredibly dehydrated and your muscle cells were just, limp, and you've done a lot of really great work. You're increasing your strength, you're eating your protein, you're staying hydrated, and your scan went up quite a bit. Now, does that mean that if I put on 8 pounds of muscle in one 8-week challenge, that you're going to look like massive and you're going to look wide, or your legs are going to be this big? It's really like it's distributed all across your body, and it could even be in places you wouldn't even think. Everyone always assumes that it's just legs and your arms and your shoulders and your back, and it's going immediately there, but it's distributing all over your body, and it's fibers all over. And then hydration has a lot to do with that. So you're not going to bulk up in a very short period of time, and it takes a lot of focus to do that. Now, you can also hypertrophy or grow muscle at F45 if you're very focused about it. So if you do have a goal, specify that goal to your coach, or know it for yourself. And if you want to skip, certain exercises or swap certain exercises to make sure that you're hitting that muscle group more often, then absolutely do that if your goal is to grow. Now, the argument from going heavier to moderate for growth.
Well, I mean, it goes back to the type of workout we're doing, right? Like, so we're doing the 9s right now. Love this workout, by the way. This is a sweet workout to do. It's amazing, like, just tangent here. As an owner, when you invest in a business and you're 4 years into it, and you're like, I really hope as I'm contracted to this business, they continue to be awesome. And they do. Like, that's one amazing.
Yeah, I really love Wyvern. I like that one.
Amazing.
That one may replace my old favorite. I'm not completely sure yet, but my previous Red Diamond. My previous resistance favorite was always Red Diamond, which I still love, but Wyvern.
Yeah, I love Wyvern.
Neck and neck.
And so the nine, and it's cool because they're getting smarter, they're listening to the signs, or listening to the feedback. But the nines, essentially what you do is you do 9 reps of one exercise. So let's say goblet squats, which is one we did the other day. And then we did some bodyweight frog squats after. And so you're moving that whole set, and you're getting that sort of, it's like a drop set, right? And it's just, you got to know, like, I'm in for a 45-second set. What kind of weight do I need to do? And usually we do a set twice, or we do 2 laps, and you got to learn that first one and treat it like an extended warm-up. Going back to that, like, I'll often do that. Like, let's say like a Romans, and my first thing is bench press. Do you think I'm going for the 95s on the first set? No, I'm maybe going for something, 60% of my max, kind of really warming that shoulder up, and then I go for the next set, right? But the way that we need to think about fatigue, I think the safest way to think about going to failure, and people define that differently, it's not my last rep that I can move the weight at all. It's the last rep that I can move the weight properly, based on the form that our trainers have taught us, right? Without the knee caving in, without the kind of ribs flaring out. That last rep, that's failure, that's fatigue. And then we either lighten the weight, or we pick up enough weight as we learn to make sure that by the end of that set, that's what we're ramping up, right? And the coaches can help you with those strategies. The idea is that you want to stay under tension and reach that as close as you can, that muscle failure, which is around fatigue. Failure is fine, but it's just a negative connotation.
Right, you
Of
didn't
pure exhaustion.
the point that you are failing like in a squat and you drop down to the floor and you drop the
No, because
weight.
if you got there, what happens is you probably had a few crappy reps.
Yeah.
You don't want to have shitty reps, because that's when you start getting, my knees are sore at 45. No, my knees aren't sore at 45 because we didn't slow down and realize your heels are coming off. Your weight was on the ball of your foot.
You could always think of it, and not a lot of people really understand this concept unless they are a personal trainer, but reps in reserve is another good way to go about it, especially when you're doing something like a front racked squat where we don't have racks at 45, right? You don't want to be going to complete failure.
No, but like the studies are showing you can build a tremendous amount of muscle, lean, good quality tissue by going with 2 reps in reserve. Like going to I have 2 reps in reserve and doing that consistently and stimulating the muscle. You're sending that signal to build. Yeah. Because you are creating that environment within the muscle, be it muscle damage, be it metabolically, that says I need to grow up to adapt. And
if you're on the opposite side of that spectrum and you are looking to make sure that you don't grow too much muscle too quickly, or you're having a sort of deload week, as one of our members used to say.
That's a lot of shout outs, eh?
I know.
I must be part of the industry.
Maybe the idea is going a lot lighter, and you can still push it to a point where you feel the muscle fatigue with a lighter weight, and it may have less of a stimulation in that way. But I'd say,
or you just back up how many strength days you do too, maybe instead of
yeah, but just the muscle activation that you've been doing recently.
Yeah, trigger sessions.
That's what you're calling. So like it could be treated as one of those days. I really want to move, but I'm still maybe sore from another workout. It's not about always going as heavy as possible because you're there. Think about how your body's recovering. If you've hit that muscle group recently and it's still excruciatingly sore, it's not about hitting it again just as hard as that last time. No. So think about it. Yeah, move, get some lubrication, get some blood flow going. And if you are trying to make sure that you maybe don't, and I really don't think it's possible at 45, bulk or put on too much muscle. If maybe you're really easy at putting on muscle. Yeah, absolutely. But or your base is already there. Go at a higher rep range. If you're going anything past 15 reps, you're probably going too light, but maybe that's something that you want to do for sure.
You have to be careful with that. You have to be careful with that one, because there's a ton of research that shows that even lightweight to fatigue, to 1 rep in reserve, it's going to stimulate the same hypertrophy as going light or heavy with fewer reps.
It depends on how long the sets are. I mean, everything really bases it off of the focus of the workout that day. So the 9s compared to MCATs are 2 totally different workouts and strategies. And I really encourage you to listen to the coaches or ask them more questions about how does this workout work and what should I be doing? If they're not telling you, most of the time they're going to tell you, this is what we recommend you pick up for your first set. Maybe we pick up something a little lighter for your second set, like MCATs, for example.
Well, and the other thing is this, guys, you're not going to put on a ton of size. Ladies, men, you're not going to put on a ton of size unless you're doing nutritional intervention to do so, right? And you're certainly not going to wake up the next day jacked unless you're taking steroids. I'm just going to be straight with you guys. So you can go lift heavy. I mean, Andy's been lifting heavy for years, and she's not put on bulk. She shaped her muscles accordingly as she's tried to do, but no one's walking around saying, "Oh, look at Andy, she's a super bulky,
Mhm.
but she's lifting heavier and heavier every week. But now, if Andy bumped up her calories to like 3,000 calories and was like, I'm having 300 grams of protein, eating a ton of carbs, yeah, Andy might bulk up, right? So I think, we can manage with nutrition. That's in recovery. Of course, we never recommend sleeping less, not to grow muscle, but unless all those things are dialed, you're not going to wake up surprised by your size, right?
Right.
Now, if you are the type of person who wants to build size, you're doing the opposite of that. You are, managing your calories. You are having more carbohydrates, and you know what? You're probably not coming to 7 at 45 days a week.
No.
You're probably hitting every strength day, and you might choose one cardio day, which is what I do. Now, I happen to add 4 matches of tennis, which you guys are tired of hearing about. But and that's why I'm not adding muscle. I'm maintaining, right? And I'm aware of that. So it's really about, so Andy and I happen to have a lot of tribal knowledge. We're learning every day. But if you're in a position where you're like, wow, this is confusing, this is all over my head, that's why we have coaches. And so getting back to the idea of personal training at F45. So, a lot of questions we get, usually people will stop themselves from coming for F42, F45 for one of two reasons. One is it's just not for me. I just don't like working out that way. But more commonly is I think I need to be in shape to go there.
Don't even sign up to
Yeah.
start.
I think I need to be in shape to come in, which is absolutely not true. That's why we have coaches, right? Can you modify exercise for me? I have an injury, or I can't do full push up. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest struggle to this day, if you know anybody that has been holding off and coming to F45 for a while, and you're trying and you show them the stories. I feel like that's probably the best way to go about it. Show them the people that are actually in the workouts. More often than not, when we do take content, sometimes the people that are the surprising members, and I say surprising because people now assume that it's only, triathletes and crazy people at F45.
Because you see a mod and you're a trainer, and you're like, oh, let's capture that. He's doing it, he's standing on his head and spinning.
We love doing mod, we like doing little challenges and stuff like that. But sometimes the members that we would really love to showcase or show off and how good that they're doing and how they're progressing are people that don't want to be in the limelight. They don't have photos or videos taken of them. So, and that can be you too. You also don't need to be that either. You don't need to be, the good thing about F45 is that you are kind of in your own little.
No mirrors.
There's no mirrors. You're with somebody at a station, but you're really focused on your own workout. But if you do end up opening up to the community and they will support you, and everybody kind of, motivates each other, supports each other throughout the workouts, and you can have that banter and camaraderie afterwards about getting through that. And I think that it's just so empowering, and people are just missing out so much on assuming that they're not fit enough, they're too old, they're too injured, depending on, like, as long as you've been cleared for workouts from your physio or your doctor, absolutely, we can modify every single station as well. So there's just so much potential, and you can really cater the workouts to work for you.
Yeah, and you know what, like, choose your own adventure, take accountability of your journey, talk to your coaches. So if you are a member at F45 and you stuck, or you have a specific goal, you don't just have to be doing your trial to talk to your coaches about the goals. Like we love to dig into that stuff with you guys as part of our process to be like, hey, who's this person? What do they care about? What's their history? Is this place right for them? Should we be referring them out? And we do our best to stay in touch with your goals as you go, and certainly celebrate your successes. But part of that journey is on you as well, right? And know that we're here for you. If you're at Hamilton, Brady is here for you, and all of our other coaches, as are Andy and I, and whoever you're most comfortable with, you can approach that person. If they don't know the answer, they'll find it out. And I'm not even talking about in a workout, I'm talking macro level. I'm talking about, how do I tackle the next challenge? How do I use this program to build muscle, right? How should I feel? How might I modify this? Should I do bilateral versus unilateral?
Or if you're not getting if you really feel like you're struggling with an exercise, ask somebody after class to go through it with you several times.
Yeah, we do that all the time.
Yeah, we do it. Sometimes we pull specific people aside, but if you really feel like, I don't think I'm feeling it in the right place.
Right, that's huge. Because you can, that's a really good one, because you can actually sometimes fool a trainer and fool yourself. You're like, well, it looks perfect, but I'm not actually talking. I'm actually having a conversation with the right muscle groups. And so that's where, working with that coach, gain the right analogy, and sort of, neuromuscular coaching really help.
Absolutely.
I mentioned the challenge. Another sweet thing about F45, we've got a few ones coming up.
Well, there was just a little, like
2 weeks.
2 weeks thing that just started.
Sorry.
To be honest, we weren't following it. I'm not gonna lie, we were not.
Well, I think that by 1,000 cuts. No, it's not that we're not interested. Look, when it's your time, it's your time. You're here to support it. Whether it's a scam, whether it's consulting, all those sorts of things. But as a community, we try and rally like 3-4 times a year because we don't want to bombard people. We know it's the summer, we know people are having fun. We just did a podcast on counterbalancing. It's the idea of like, hey, how do we hold on to all this goodness so we can get ready for the fall, or we can actually make our next level of transformation, right? And that's what the challenges are for.
Yeah, I think the 2-week initiator was, to encourage people to come in the summer and do like a 2-week thing. But it's like half of that is their trial. So for me, asking members to be like, do you want to do a 2-week thing in the middle of the summer? They were like, not really interested. So I always think of challenges as more like, the next one, maybe it's still part of the summer. You're not really going to be 100%, but do a little bit of it. Follow some of the meals or
Protein challenge.
Make your own challenge out of it. And then by the time the next one comes that everyone's going to be a part of, that's the late fall one. Right before the winter season, a lot of people do that one. It's kind of post summer. Yeah. So that one is going to be the one that everybody takes very seriously, but you don't like ease into it. So, take each challenge as an opportunity to learn something, build a habit, take it to the next one.
Yeah, it'd be sweet. Like the 2-week initiative. This is your tracking trial. This is not tracking to transform. This is tracking your nutrition in order to understand how much you actually eat in a day. That'd be pretty cool. That'd be a reason to do the initiator challenge.
Understanding your maintenance.
Oh, the primary. Yeah.
Not a lot of people know what that is. And whenever they use a tracker, they go straight into weight loss. So this is an estimation that, the app goes, here's what I think your calories are. And F45 challenge app does this as well. It's an estimation based off of the Mueller equation. And it'll go, okay, based off of how much you told me that you're moving and how much you're working out with the goal. Sometimes we're like, yeah, I'm very, very active. But really, you might be more like, moderately active. It's like how much you actually sitting throughout the day. Everyone just assumes that the crazy workout is like, and they do it every single day, that they're very active people, but very active is also part of your lifestyle. So this has to be taken into account, your actual maintenance calories. But
I was gonna say, look, I mean, the most important thing you can do when you're going on to a challenge or a journey like that where you're beginning to track is you begin in the maintenance phase. Because what you need to understand is what's my baseline metabolism. And everyone does it and we get it, like we understand why, and I'm guilty, but it's like, I'm going building loss, like out of the gates, like you don't even know what your baseline is. And so we're always racing. It's our nature to always race to that destination, and then we sort of flame that out. We don't learn. And what you do in nutrition coaching, which I love, and we continue to see that everything that you're doing makes so much sense, which is I'm going to teach you to understand your body. And then we're going to pull a few levers at a time while controlling other levers to see how we can make change. And when we learn that thing, we may see that an opportunity, whether it's through blood work or whether it's through the scale moving, not moving, all those sorts of things, how I'm feeling, energy levels. We kind of manipulate those things one at a time, but you got to start in that maintenance phase. I know we're getting down a rabbit hole that we love to go down, which is
no, but I always like to touch on that, and it is part of the challenge, understanding calories, and people always end up wanting to ask about it, and we dig too deep into it at F45 because we don't have the ability. That's why I do want to coach. We don't have the ability to get into that so deeply with every person, and we try to give you as much information as we can. So does HQ on the app. But what I will tell you is, almost every time somebody's tracked in maintenance the first week, they still have lost weight. And the reason being is for a couple of things. One, the estimation wasn't completely right, or your estimation of how active you were was over or under. And then also just tracking your food in general, you tend to make better choices than whatever kind of information you were holding on to before.
Well, you also dialed on your carbs naturally. When you get a little wheel that says you can only have 200 grams of carbs, you don't realize that here's something crazy. And I'm I'm borrowing from the Maps guys again, because apparently all I do is work and listen to the My Mom podcast. So I'm plugging those guys. I absolutely love them. They're brilliant. Di Stefano wrote an amazing book about resistance training. Everyone should check it out. We're gonna buy it. We did, even though we listen to them all the time. But he made this great analogy the other day. He's like, look, like what's a bag of potato chips? Like 6 potatoes. Like, can you imagine sitting down and having 6 potatoes or 6 bowls of mashed potatoes? And so it was an argument about whole foods versus processed foods. But where I'm going with this is that we know that every molecule of carbohydrate holds 3 molecules of water with it when it stores as muscle glycogen, right? And so when we start dialing back those carbs, right, we get rid of potato chips and we add mashed potatoes, and we're having 1 potato, not 6, right? When we sit down and finish that hyper palatable engineered food, all of a sudden we start liberating water. So this is the thing I always caution people in those first few weeks. You're actually kind of releasing some water. And that's where a lot of the weight's coming off. And then it slows down and people freak out. It's not working anymore. I give up. No, you lost water. It takes a longer time to lose fat.
Yeah, and just to, you know, tackle on the end of that, because it's very easy to assume the carbs that we're eating before we start tracking are likely going to be high calorically dense versions of carbohydrates, which are actually still just as high, if not higher in fat. So chips sound like a carb, but if you look at them, they're also incredibly high in fat too. So it's the fact that they're calorie dense, and everybody always assumes, I love carbs. No, you love highly processed and calorie dense foods, and those aren't necessarily just carbs. They're that combination of the two.
Or one's nutritionally dense, fiber dense foods.
Yeah, fiber dense carbs, because honestly, you know, it's just because what I see is when people are like, wow, so that's how many carbs I'm supposed to eat.
Come here.
Is that how many carbs I'm supposed to eat, based off of this tracker? And it gives them hundreds of carbs, and they're actually very surprised. And I go, real carbs. I want you to eat 200 grams of real carbs. That's hard to do, believe me. Unless you're like smashing rice, and all the grains, which are, again, really filling. You're probably not going to hit 200 grams of carbs very easily, as you would if they were calorie dense foods, which again will send you way over your calories and your fat. But this is a huge tangent because I do love talking about nutrition, so I can do a whole.
Yeah, I mean, I think the takeaway is that 45 has a sweet nutrition component called the challenge that we continue to deliver and get better at and see better results. I mean, we had some of those like 30 pounds last challenge, like something like that.
Yeah.
And he's continuing to lose weight.
Plus 70 overall, and you know, and not a lot of people follow the meal plan, but I always recommend, if you've never followed a meal plan before, please check out F45challenge.com or
Even right now.
download the app because it's free. They have really great meals in there. And honestly, when I hear about people who follow meal plans before, they're always extremely bland and boring. And no wonder people think that eating healthy is
punishment,
is bland and like awful, and nobody wants to do it. And then they always assume that the opposite is, well, I don't want to eat boiled chicken and asparagus every day, so I'm just gonna have pizza. It's like, it always has to be one or the other. There's so much like variety and flavor and delicious things that you can make, and you know that. Like a homemade Caesar salad is just like, it's so good.
whereas a Caesar salad at Cheesecake Factory is 1,500 calories.
Exactly.
But-
So download the app, check it out. If you've never tracked before, they have a kind of a base level idea of tracking. It doesn't track every single macronutrient or calorie for you, but it gives you an idea. And if you follow the meal plan according to how they get mapped out, you can get a pretty good idea of how that amount of calories is for you.
So I mentioned that we, I mentioned a lot about the challenge. I talked about F45 as a top form for transformation, which it definitely is. And we talk a lot about aesthetics and body transformation, right? And certainly body transformation isn't just aesthetics, although that usually comes with the package. But there's also the performance element. So we have the playoffs coming up, and I want to wrap up here. And when are our playoffs? What's the official date? 29th?
No, August 19th.
August 19th. So August 19th at Hamilton downtown, we're going to be doing the playoffs. It's going to be tied to a charity event for Empowerment Square. It's going to be in the afternoon, and then we're going to go have some fun after. It's fun.
Beer.
Yeah.
A little bit of beer.
At America Brewery. It's going to be sweet.
Yeah.
But we have a huge focus on performance as well, right? So the playoffs, which happen out of studio's discretion, we like to have it more now that COVID is hopefully behind us for the most part. But this is where we come out and do a 10 exercise circuit and really push to the limit and see not just, how's our body changed on the outside, but how's it changed on the inside? How are we producing energy? How strong are we? Can we, how many points can I get personally on the playoffs? Because you get points for your rep attainment for every station. Then how can I go beat that in a quarter, half a year from now? And that is one of our favorite measurements of success, not just a body scanner, but more importantly, how am I performing as an individual? Because that will translate to how you're performing in life too, right? If you develop that type of fitness and you can demonstrate in the playoffs. So definitely come to the playoffs. If you're in F45 or anywhere in the world, put some pressure on your studio to do it. They will.
Yeah, they
I'm
can
sure
do it
they're
whenever.
aware.
They could just organize it. It's kind of fun because you always have the ability to put it on the screens, and it's always the same 10 exercises.
It's fun for us to watch too.
And yeah, absolutely. I mean, and you can come and just watch, you can come and just help count repetitions too. And it's a lot of fun. Obviously, people need that motivation and that cheering on. So yeah.
Cool. Well, hey guys, I'll tell you what, if you are in the Hamilton area and you're curious about F45, stop being curious and come check it out. So you can do it. Stop being curious. Get in the chocolate. So it's in the chocolate and come down the escarpment right now. Sounds like lunches. Okay. Listen to me. So seriously though, $30, which is less than half price for a typical week at F45, you come down for a trial, do unlimited training. If you have a buddy who trains at F45 Hamilton downtown, you can get 50% off of 30. So for $15, come do 7 days of unlimited training with Braden and his crew, beauty trainers, best in the city. We've won best fitness club in Hamilton for the last 3 years in a row, thanks to this team, and maybe a little bit to do with the owners, a slight little bit, little pinch of salt. But most importantly, these trainers in the community that we have. And then, you know, your friend gets a little bonus too. If they bring in, you come 3 times and they get a little bit of a discount off their next auto payment. So it's a sweet deal. Come check us out. If you're not in the Hamilton area, go check out your local F45. You will not be disappointed. It is one of the best things you can do for your fitness and health.
And if you don't know already, just if you are listening to this, and you don't know where we are, we're at 15 Wellington Street North.
15 Wellington Street North, Hamilton, Ontario. Our
And-
Instagram is F45 Hamilton Downtown, and Andy's Instagram, or Andy, sorry,
Either
she
way,
has 2 names, is
Yes,
Live Aligned. So LIV,
ALIGNED.
and mine is B_effective, which is a play on words. So effective is EFFECUTIVE. And if you want to follow our dog, it's Bowie the Vizsla, most importantly. So check her out there, and we'll put some links in the show notes, as well as some of our promo codes for some of our awesome partners like BioOptimizers, which Amanda will tell you all about after the segment.
Right now?
No,
Oh,
you're cutting that out.
okay.
You can cut the BioOptimizers part out and just put the commercial in.
Oh, this is really starting to give me an earache.
I guess I have to do the intros for both of those workouts.
I mean, I don't think, I mean, both of those were very specific. It wasn't like a open-ended, so we don't.
But no, I think we should do it, and we should do it because you can stop that. Because it's important, because if you only listen 2 minutes, I gotta tell you why it's important to listen.